Welcome to the New Brunswick Today Show. I'm Charlie Cradaville, and we're pleased that you could join us today for the very first official broadcast. We're going to provide the same high-quality news about New Brunswick, Rutgers, and the rest of New Jersey that you've come to expect from us at New Brunswick Today. We're going to be broadcasting here from our studio in beautiful downtown New Brunswick, and we'll also be taking your calls at 732-993-9697. Now, the great thing about this show is you can listen to it while you're getting your day started, while you're catching up on some of the great stories, great material we have at newbrunswicktoday.com. So please share this broadcast with your friends. Click share, open up another browser window, check out newbrunswicktoday.com. So here we are, we survived the hurricane. Hermine, not even a drop of rain over the weekend. We've got beautiful weather all weekend, and so far beautiful weather today. It's Tuesday, September 6th. According to weather.com, we're in for a mix of clouds and sun early, followed by cloudy skies this afternoon. Slight chance of rain shower later, and the high is going to be around 85 degrees, winds at 10 to 20 miles an hour. We've got a few traffic advisories for this day today, Tuesday. Bayard Street is going to be closed between Joyce-Kilmer Avenue and Connector Way until about 4 p.m. Sanford Street between Livingston Avenue and Joyce-Kilmer is going to be closed until 3 p.m. Wilcox Road will be closed until 4 p.m. And Seminary Place is going to be reduced to a single lane until 4 p.m. Now, our top story today is paid sick leave, and that's going to be coming to a head tonight at the City Council in New Brunswick. That meeting's at 5:30 at City Hall. There's free parking for anybody who wants to attend and see what's going on. And there's something else we noticed on the agenda that was very interesting. Another employee of the city's water utility is in trouble. Travis Holfish apparently had a disciplinary hearing. Former Judge Bradley Ferenz presided over that. We don't know what happened or why why the city was trying to discipline him, but it is part of a pattern where we've seen water utility employees be accused of misconduct and wrongdoing. Edward O'Rourke is actually serving a jail sentence for falsifying records, basically lying to the public about the safety and quality of our drinking water here. But we also saw somebody else get in trouble, get suspended last year, and we asked the City Council to explain whether the public had any reason to think that they would be in danger because of whatever it was this person did. It was very hard for us to get answers, so we're going to actually take a look back at the September 2nd council meeting where New Brunswick Today asked about this other person who had been disciplined, and expect something similar at tonight's council meeting. Take a look at the video. How many employees are suspended without pay from the water utility?
The two that we're talking about.
2. No more, okay. Are there any that are suspended with pay?
No.
No.
Should the public be concerned about whatever it is that this other person did to get disciplinary action insofar as the safety of our water? Was the public put in danger by what this other person had done?
I'm not going to comment.
We said before, we cannot comment on that right now.
So you won't say whether the public was put in danger or not?
Not at this time, Mr. Bradley.
That is unacceptable.
Mr. Crowder, come on, move on, please. No one's life or anything was threatened that I believe. I think we would have heard about it if someone was threatening. I can't sit.
You guys tried to cover it up last time.
We're not trying to cover up anything.
You did.
You're saying.
You did. I have the emails. You hired a public relations firm, and you thought you were going to get away with it last time without the DEP putting that stuff out there. But the DEP put it out there. Do we have reason to believe that the public was endangered by what this person did?
Mr. Crowder, we are not going to comment on this at this time.
So you will not say whether or not the public was endangered by the actions of this unidentified employee who is suspended without pay, and you're trying to discipline him, but you won't tell us if the public was put in danger. I just want to be clear, you won't tell us if the public was put in danger.
Mr. Lockman, what we're telling Mr. Lockman.
Well, let me say this,
Yes.
Mr. Egan, because obviously this is, something's being portrayed here that we had, again, the public in some type of danger. The water coming out of the plant never put the public in danger. We thought it was appropriate to take action for other reasons.
It is back to school time here in New Brunswick. Both Rutgers University and the city's public schools are back in session today. The city is alive. Over the weekend, a new privatized Rutgers dormitory known as the Yard hosted one of its first events to allow anyone who wanted to watch Rutgers' first football game of the season a chance to watch it in an outdoor space on the giant Jumbotron screen there in that development where, of course, the grease trucks used to be. Unfortunately, the crowd of hundreds started thinning out as Washington University ran up the score, eventually defeating the Scarlet Knights 48-13. This Saturday, the Rutgers football team will have its first home game. They'll be taking on Howard University. As for the public schools, you can actually watch our fantastic reporter Carlos Ramirez, who gave some live reports outside the Roosevelt Elementary School just a few minutes ago. It's back to school time there, and Carlos gave reports in English and Spanish that you can see on our New Brunswick Today Facebook page. Today is also the first day of a brand new school opening in New Brunswick on Somerset Street. The school district is calling the school the Lincoln Annex. It's used to be known as the St. Peter's School. It was a private school for many years, closed in 2010. The district purchased the school for $7.4 million in 2013, but at that time the superintendent, who's now former superintendent, said that they wanted to make the building into administrative offices for the Board of Education. That plan has obviously since been changed, and now the former school is going to again be a school. The Lincoln Elementary School effectively now has a satellite campus there. So the principal of the new Lincoln Annex School is Sarah A. Dobson. She left her position at the Woodrow Wilson Elementary School, and William J. Smith took over that leadership spot. The new school, which is going to be serving grades 3 through 7 this year, is going to expand to include the 8th grade next year. At least that's the plan. And meanwhile, the old Lincoln School, the district's oldest facility, more than 100 years old, is going to be home to kindergarten, 1st grade, and 2nd grade classes, as well as a new gifted and talented academy for 4th and 5th graders. We're also working on a story about the newest member of the school board. I should say the newest former member of the school board. It's actually former member Diana Solis. She, you might remember, used to go by the name Diana Fajardo, and she was one of the first ever elected members. She served only 1 year and decided not to run again. But we've been looking into this whole story ever since Francesca Fowler resigned from the board this summer. The board swiftly replaced Ms. Fowler with the new old member, and we're going to have a story for that for you later on this week. Stay tuned. Now, across the street from us in our lovely downtown studio is the Middlesex County Courthouse, and what's going on there right now is fascinating. Perth Amboy's former police chief is on trial for serious crimes, misconduct. The trial is going to continue today in the courtroom of Judge Diane Pincus on the 5th floor of the building. Anyone is welcome to come and watch. That case should be going on right now. So far, NJ.com's Spencer Kent has provided the most detailed coverage of this ongoing saga. You can read it on NJ.com. And we just saw Kenneth Ballett, a former police officer and councilman in Perth Amboy, walk into the courthouse. He's expected to testify today. He was the whistleblower who exposed the police chief getting the city mechanics to work on his own vehicles. Today's also an important day in Perth Amboy politics because it's the deadline for people who want to run for mayor or city council in their nonpartisan election to file petitions. It's also the same thing in Spotswood, where there'll be mayor and council elections this year. So we'll let you know tomorrow what's going on with those races after the deadline to file those petitions passes at 4 p.m. today. Tune in tomorrow to see the full list, but we are expecting at least 4 different mayor candidates to throw their hat in the ring in the city of Perth Amboy. So we'll keep an eye on that. In other courthouse news, on September 1st, a Highland Park man was sentenced to serve 64 years in state prison for shooting and robbing a 22-year-old New Brunswick resident on January 15, 2013. Mario Lombardo, a nurse at St. Peter's University Hospital, was paralyzed in the shooting, which took place on Somerset Street more than 3 years ago. It was described as a robbery by authorities. Louis C. Hooper, 32 years old, was sentenced by Superior Court Judge Alberto Rivas at the county courthouse last week, and he must serve 85% of that 64-year sentence before he'd be eligible for parole, according to a press release from the Middlesex County Prosecutor's Office. Lombardo was shot in the head in the robbery and severely disabled him. His mother told the city council that he's never going to be able to work again and that he was paralyzed. Hooper pleaded guilty to the robbery and the attempted murder. A number of charges. It's actually attempted murder, armed robbery, unlawful possession of a weapon for an unlawful purpose, hindering his apprehension and the apprehension of two co-defendants as well, and also resisting arrest. Middlesex County First Assistant Prosecutor Chris Kuberite handled the case, and now that's an example of the Middlesex County Prosecutor's Office securing a conviction against a man they believe committed murder. But the agency's case against another accused murderer, Roy Jabbar Nail, did not go as well for the prosecution, leaving the father of a 22-year-old victim, Josh Negron, unsatisfied. Nail was actually acquitted on the murder charge and recently got another outstanding gun charge dismissed. Josh Negron's father, Jose Negron, has been outspoken about the way the case was handled. He took aim at the judge, also criticized the last-minute change in who the judge was going to be and who the prosecutors were going to be in that case, and also criticized a witness who basically changed her story from what she had originally told police the night of his son's murder. Like we said, Jose Negron has been very outspoken about this. He posted a video to Facebook on September the 1st about this case, venting and airing his feelings about that. We wanted to share with you just a short clip from that video. Take a look at the video that we have for you here.
Jafar did it. There is not, like, every bone in my body, every breath I take, there's not one doubt to tell me that he did not do it. Jafar did it. So they waited 2 years for the case to come to trial, and when the trial came, they changed judges on us, and they changed prosecutors on us. You know, they, boom, right 1-2 weeks before the trial was about to begin, they did all that. So now these prosecutors, like, oh, they don't even know what's going on. And that's how my man walked. Between that and, you know, little Cruz over here, you know, like, now check this out. Either you lying on the video, because in the video you were showing raw emotions, and in the video, I mean, in our stance, you had a little smirk in your face, like somebody got to her. I don't know if it was old boy's family, but from what I heard, it was the lawyer got his people to tell that girl to change her story, and she changed her story, and that's all that it took. And that's why that little cow is walking right now. But dog, you did that. You killed my son. You killed Josh, man.
And welcome back. This is the New Brunswick Today Show. We are taking your calls this morning, 732-993-9697. In other news, Samson Steinman, the mayor of Rahway, is facing accusations that he was driving with an expired license when he crashed into a parked car shortly after 5:30 a.m. on the 26th, the morning after a concert that he hosted, featuring New Brunswick favorites, the Smithereens. Authorities are also still looking for an unidentified child molester in Highland Park. And they also announced that a woman has been indicted for allegedly poisoning an unidentified man in Metuchen on May 25th. These are all stories that are already on the NewBrunswickToday.com website. You can check that out. And again, if you want to talk about any of these stories or anything that's on your mind, give us a call, 732-993-9697. Now, it's an honor today. We do have a special guest. Emilia Mejia is going to be joining us in a few minutes. She's the executive director of the Working Families Alliance. And the issue we're going to be discussing is a very important one, paid sick time, sometimes referred to as paid sick leave or paid sick days. So why is it so important? For many Americans, calling in sick to a job is just a normal part of the routine and flow of business. When you're sick, you're not expected to come into work for your own good and for the good of your coworkers, and sometimes for the good of your company's customers. Employer policies vary very widely about when someone gets paid for their time off, but most employers will at least let you take the day off. Now, most good jobs, including government jobs, actually guarantee a certain number of paid sick days per year. But for thousands of people in New Brunswick, it's not that easy. New Brunswick is the city with the greatest concentration of temporary agencies on the east coast of our country, with about a dozen major ones here. Even if you've worked for the same temporary staffing agency for years, until recently, you could still be fired for trying to take a sick day, and you almost definitely wouldn't get paid for the day you miss. Now, this is an important fight for workers, but it's not the only important fight going on right now. As you've probably noticed, a lot of workers across the country are advocating and even demanding higher wages at their jobs and a higher minimum wage in many states as well as at the national level. The fight for 15 has become a rallying cry for many workers, in some ways epitomizing the struggle of the shrinking working class. The movement's got a lot of attention, sparked companies like Walmart to raise their own minimum wages. Now, cities and towns here in New Jersey aren't able to pass a minimum wage any higher than the states. What's permitted under New Jersey state constitution right now is $8.38 an hour. Voters voted to increase that and or voted to raise it to that, raising the minimum wage and permanently connecting it to the consumer price index so that it would go up along with inflation. Now, currently the minimum wage is, like I said, $8.38 an hour, but the fight for paid sick leave has not received nearly as much attention as the battle over the minimum wage, which just recently came to a head when Governor Christie vetoed a bill that would have required the state to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour over several years. Now, the organization that fought for the fight for 15 here is the New Jersey Working Families Alliance. Now, basically everywhere except New Brunswick, the fight over the minimum wage has been the dominant issue. But in the hub city, battle lines have been drawn over how to best implement paid sick leave. Now, these lines are actually between advocates who support paid sick leave. The advocates are fighting over how best the New Brunswick ordinance should read, and we're going to be having a conversation about that in just a little bit. Basically, the New Jersey Working Families Alliance was responsible for getting this law passed in many places. It's important to note that people in New Jersey usually agree on the concept of paid sick time and that it should be a requirement for private businesses to offer it. These issues aren't controversial, really. There are some people who are against it, usually interests that are defending employers, but for private companies to offer their workers paid sick leave is generally considered a good public policy. But the devil, like with anything else, the devil is in the details. In government and politics, that's often the case. And despite their hands being tied when it comes to the minimum wage, mayors and city councils in New Jersey are able to pass laws that require employers to offer paid sick time as a benefit to their workers. Jersey City became the first in New Jersey to adopt such a law in 2014, but they're far from the first community to adopt a law requiring this benefit in the country. California, Oregon, Massachusetts, Vermont, and Connecticut each have their own different laws governing the practice, as well as Washington, D.C., Montgomery County, Maryland, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Minneapolis, Minnesota, and a few cities in Washington State. That's Seattle, Spokane, Tacoma, and also 4 of the 5 largest cities in the country: New York City, Los Angeles, Chicago, Philadelphia. Now remember, this is critically important to many workers, especially in the country's poorest cities, where workers are more likely to be fired for missing a day's work and less likely to enjoy some guaranteed days off, whether they are paid or not. One group of people that especially benefit from paid sick time are parents. That's because you don't actually have to be sick to use paid sick time. It's also fair game to use paid sick time to care for a sick family member or to make follow-up visits to the doctor. Now, New Brunswick missed their chance to become the first community in the state to adopt mandatory paid sick time policy, but they did do something unique here. They did become the first in the state to offer time off under an expanded concept, paid safe time. Now, paid safe time is based on the concept of paid sick time, but it also allows for workers to be, for the time to be taken by workers who've been victims of domestic violence or sexual assault. This particular addition to the law is one that is not, no other town has done yet. Now, what's at stake tonight in New Brunswick is whether or not the City Council will vote to repeal and replace its paid sick time law that it adopted in December 2015. That law was passed only after years of pressure from local groups, including Unity Square and New Brunswick Tomorrow's Esperanza Neighborhood Project. It included paid safe time, but it also included some interesting exemptions to the law that has sparked controversy. So the law that was passed by New Brunswick basically leaves out certain workers. That includes part-time workers, workers who are at small companies, those with 5 or fewer employees, and also a very important group here in New Brunswick, per diem hospital workers. These are folks who work on a daily basis at the 2 major hospitals in New Brunswick. Now, the New Jersey Working Families Alliance was responsible for getting the laws passed to offer or to require paid sick time benefits in a dozen other cities, like the Jersey City ordinance we talked about. Some of the state's largest cities and most progressive cities have adopted ordinances based on the model that the Working Families Alliance put forth. But in New Brunswick, the model that was used was not the Working Families model. It was one that, again, we said was created by those local groups here, and those folks who are left out of the law, who don't get the guaranteed benefit, are at issue here. So there's basically, again, folks who work at small companies, folks who work less than 20 hours a week, and also per diem hospital workers. The Working Families Alliance was in a difficult position. They didn't oppose the law that New Brunswick passed, but what they did is they took advantage of an opportunity for an initiative and referendum. This is a very important concept, and it's thanks to a law that's on the books in New Jersey called the Faulkner Act. It governs how the government works at the local level for many cities and towns. Most of the major cities use one variation or another of the Faulkner Act. Now, under the Faulkner Act, citizens are able to initiate their own laws. There's an opportunity for regular people, not council, not mayor, not president, not Congress, to actually pass their own laws. Now, the way it works is very simple. You have to get a certain number of signatures from registered voters in the community. You submit it to the city clerk, and that, when that is done, the city clerk, if you have enough petitions or enough signatures on your petition, that actually goes to the city council, where the city council has a chance to adopt the ordinance that the people want, or if they vote no, it goes to the voters with a ballot question, like a yes or no question about whether or not this law should be passed. Now, that's the situation we're in now because the Working Families Alliance took advantage of the Faulkner Act and that opportunity for what we call initiative and referendum. Again, that's citizens initiating their own law and sometimes taking it to the ballot with a referendum. So we're going to be speaking with Anawilia Mejia in just a moment. She is the executive director of the Working Families Alliance, and she's going to tell us about why her group initiated this petition and what they hope to accomplish. The vote, just so you know, is going to be tonight at 5:30 p.m. in City Hall. There will be a public hearing first, so anyone who wants to speak or ask questions about the ordinance is going to have the chance to do that, and then the council will take this all-important vote to decide whether or not to repeal and replace the existing law and replace it with this alternative version of the paid sick leave law. If we could please have our guests come out and join us. And we'll see you tonight at the council meeting. Stay with us. Anna Lilia Mejia is on her way into the room now. William here. Please, thank you for joining us. Tell us a little bit about your organization first. What is it that you stand for? What do you fight for?
Sure. So New Jersey Working Families is the state affiliate of the Working Families Organization. Nationally, we're a progressive organization. We advocate for the rights of workers. We push for a progressive agenda and for progressive elected officials. In New Jersey, just connecting to the introduction you gave your viewers, we have actually coordinated and led that fight for earned sick days, raising the minimum wage, and also wage theft. With different partners, obviously, trying to just raise up workers. And so in New Jersey, we fought really hard to get multiple earned sick day ordinances passed in this campaign of ultimately a statewide bill.
Yeah, so let's talk about that a little bit. You're going with a strategy that has been successful in a lot of places on a lot of issues. Getting the towns to lead by passing local
We made it up, but yes. we're as surprised that it's worked.
Well, good. So tell us, what obstacles have you had in getting towns to adopt this, and where do you see the statewide issue? There is a bill, right, but with our governor, we're not expected for that to pass anytime soon.
So the biggest issue across our state is, and I'm sure it won't be news to you, is this inclination, not only once it gets to the front office with a Republican governor who more often than not just vetoes, but as it's getting created, is this inclination across our legislature to water down bills. And so our push around earned sick days in particular has been around this idea of having the most comprehensive coverage for all workers. So in 11 municipalities across the state, what we have is, what we've succeeded in either putting on the ballot or politically moving, is a local ordinances that grants every single worker within that municipality the right to earn sick time, making every employer within that municipality responsible for giving that earned sick time. It's critical that we've also expanded the maximum number of coverage for food service, child care, elder care, healthcare workers, because we know that in those industries, those are the individuals, particularly, the person that's doing the laundry at at a hospital, or a temp nurse, a temporary nurse who's coming in and filling in gaps, which often occur in both hospitals that are in New Brunswick. It's actually an issue. Or daycare workers, a home health care aide, someone working in a restaurant, that they have the maximum number of days because they are in the front line of a health epidemic, and they are least likely to get earned sick days.
Right. So in at least one of those communities, the issue was not passed by the council, but rather by the people, the voters. That was like Elizabeth.
3 actually. So we put it on the ballot in Trenton, we put it on the ballot in Elizabeth, we put it on the ballot in Montclair. We've won upwards of 76 to 86% of the vote because, I mean, it's such, you made mention, I'm a parent, you know, the ability to stay home and care for a child and not go into an economic tailspin, particularly for those who make minimum wage or just barely above minimum wage, is so critical. Again, the workers that were that were making a huge effort to ensure are covered, not only at the local level, but as we build towards a statewide campaign or a statewide bill, are least likely to have earned sick days, are most likely to make minimum wage, are most likely to suffer from wage theft. And so, you know, it's a comprehensive package for our campaign to try to get through at the state level. And there's only 16 months until we have a new governor. So.
Right, you're here.
Yeah.
So tell us what are your thoughts on the existing law in New Brunswick? They did pass one. Working Families wasn't so much involved with the passage of that.
Well, we did lobby. We were critical of the fact that it had massive carve-outs, right? There were blackout dates that were introduced for food service workers.
Right. So only for workers in that industry, right? Or
I believe it's only workers in that industry, which is very problematic in that you shifted something that would have been everywhere else as a blanket responsibility for the employer and created a caveat in which an employer can determine this is a magic day in which this law should not apply.
And so tell us what, like, do you know what days? Those are all holidays, basically. So if people are calling in sick on a holiday, they're expected to then get a doctor's note or something like.
It could be anywhere from increasing requirements as well as having severe consequences for that employee, which is problematic again because, you know, if you get a stomach bug or your child gets sick, first thing in the morning, there's not as much of a likelihood that you're going to run to the doctor or have health insurance.
Not everyone can afford it. Yeah,
not everyone can afford it.
Low wage, yeah.
And so, you know, that is one problematic measure. The other problematic measure is that for healthcare workers, some folks in New Brunswick would be shocked to know that when you go into the hospitals in New Brunswick, because of the carve-outs in this bill, there are nurses who would be treating you who would have to have shown up to work sick because they don't have the benefit of earned sick time. And so, you know, for us, we of course support the idea of and celebrate every municipality that passes the ordinance. And New Jersey, I mean, there are plenty of ordinances across the nation that aren't as comprehensive as the package that we created here over the course of the last 3 years. This campaign has actually been going on for over 3 years. But the problem that New Brunswick creates is that then you have legislators at the state level and even other municipalities saying, well, let's water it down some more, and let's water it down some more. And we understand, you know, that all politics are local and celebrate it. I spent plenty of years in New Brunswick myself, so I know all politics are local in New Brunswick, as well as, you know, the town we work out of now in Newark or Elizabeth, where I grew up for that matter. But the basic idea here is that we are very interested in bringing this question to voters that essentially expands coverage for earned sick days. There is one point, so to clarify what the proposal does, if you don't mind.
Please.
I'm assuming you were going to ask me that. So the proposal that is before the council and is moving its way towards towards voters essentially would expand earned sick days to all of those different categories of workers that I made mention. So food service, childcare, the part-time workers, workers in small businesses. The majority of businesses are actually small businesses in this town. They're carved out. Part-time workers were carved out. So we took great pains to re-expand that to cover all of those people. Essentially saying the old ordinance used to have a threshold, like a bar that you had to meet before you could earn the time. But the proposal before the New Brunswick voters will essentially eliminate that bar, that threshold, and say, if you're working, if your employer's in this town, and you're doing, you're a New Brunswick worker, then you should be covered, and you should be offered 3 days or 5 days, irrespective of part-time or full-time. You should have the ability to earn up to that time. And if you are in food service, childcare, elder care, or hospital healthcare worker, you have to be allotted the full 5 days. Where the point of contention with the municipality and with some other locals or organizations is this question of whether or not temp agencies and temp workers should receive or can receive the full time. We have actually argued in court that, and continue to make this argument, that statewide, temp agencies are considered co-employers. So if a temp agency is in New Brunswick, right, then they are a co-employer located in New Brunswick and therefore responsible. We're hoping to have conversations with the municipality that further, if need be, make whatever technical corrections to ensure that that is clear. But it's state law that temp agencies are co-employers and therefore should have the ability or the responsibility to cover all workers, including temp workers.
Right. So this is a big issue here in New Brunswick because we have so many temp agencies.
As is the healthcare issue and food service and childcare carve out. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so we have this huge concentration of temp workers. Most of the work that they do actually is not done in New Brunswick. They're usually catching a ride very early in the morning.
In Elizabeth,
right.
In Trenton, in Patterson, in Passaic.
Sure.
In all of
and then these folks are going to warehouses or other places that are not in the town where that might have the protection. So do you believe that your proposal would cover all of the temporary workers who work at these agencies?
I think that there are technical corrections that we can do to clarify this point. Again, I'm not a lawyer, so I can't. But the legal counsel that we've actually received from individuals that actually work on this nationwide is that the way the New Brunswick ordinance is written today doesn't actually cover those workers, because the ordinance, you were at that council meeting with that back and forth debate. I mean, you get 3 lawyers, you get 5 opinions, so you have to take it with a grain of salt. But the language in the current ordinance says you're covered, and you're covered.
You're eligible.
You're eligible but for the hours worked within the municipality. And the language actually says actually worked in New Brunswick.
Right. So is it fair to say the Working Families Alliance wants to cover
we want to cover
the temporary
every
work,
worker.
whether it's done in New Brunswick actually, or whether it's done in Monroe Township?
We took it to court, our argument, and we have continued to have this argument and are looking at and making sure that it is expanded. But our contention is actually that every single worker should be covered, and that every worker should get full coverage. And that includes obviously temp workers, but also, like I said, per diem nurses, temporary nurses, part-time workers, restaurant employees that work during the holiday season. I mean, all of these workers should be covered. And our push, both in New Brunswick and statewide, has been to do exactly that.
Cool. So I think it's important to note the last time somebody submitted a Faulkner Act petition here in New Brunswick was the folks at Food and Water Watch, a great organization I used to work for, and they wanted to ban fracking here in New Brunswick.
We work very closely with Jim and the folks there.
Of course. So they got the signatures, they turned it in, and my understanding is that they were actually, the city council decided, hey, we'll just pass this rather than put it to the voters and have to wait. They basically acquiesced and agreed to do what Food and Water Watch wanted them to do, but they were able to make some technical tweaks to the petition. They were able to make, some updates or just clarifying language. So is that something you would be willing to do if this issue of temp workers could be resolved?
So the big thing, again, I think it's I think that there's a clarification that likely needs to be made, and if the municipality, within the language that exists today, defines coverage as X, it can actually continue to define it as X, since the same language exists. I mean, I think that's kind of maybe an opaque point. Maybe you're getting it, maybe your viewers are like, what did she just say? The bottom line is that the municipality can make non-substantive changes and clarify both the intent of our petition as well as expand their ordinance to ensure that all workers get covered. What we wouldn't support is massive non-substantive changes that would deny coverage for a lot of workers. And we wouldn't be alone in that there's actually a Supreme Court ruling that says that the will of the people, once a Faulkner proposal has been put forth, a municipality can't circumvent the will of the people putting forward that proposal by gutting it, for example, which isn't, that's not what happened in New Brunswick previously, nor do I believe that's what would happen here. But for us, we're like, yeah, we think all workers should be covered. An easy fix would just be to remove the word actually.
So you would support that? If that was proposed,
we said as much. We're like, so in that council meeting, members of the council were like, well, we didn't, we want to cover
that wasn't their intent either.
Yeah, so we were like, then remove the word actually. No one wants this word actually. And that would be the easiest technical fix. And then we're done.
Right, so who would have to sign off on that? Because that would have to happen today, right, before the council meeting.
So we've put forward that suggestion and recommendation since last week. It's a holiday weekend, so maybe it's been harder to get through, but we're hopeful that they would just make that one word could make all the difference.
And so who circulated the petition, or who's responsible for the petition?
So the way it works is that you have 5 voters within the municipality who are able to initiate the petition, and then you can have volunteers circulate the petition. So we had a mixture of advocates from different partner organizations and unions that work with us, as well as volunteers and folks from working families circulating, doing the work to ensure that all the names were actually registered voters within the municipality, typing in voter IDs to make sure that we had our list of supporters identified, so that once it goes, or if it goes to the ballot, we were circling back to all of those folks.
And you think it's safe to say all those folks would support that minor change?
Well, again, if you read actually the preamble of the petition, it says the intent of this petition, I'm paraphrasing, is to expand coverage to now include these category of workers, and is not intended as a curtailment of the standing ordinance. So if you actually, folks who...
The intent is clear, it wasn't intended.
It was in the petition. It was in the first top portion of the petition. So yeah, the intent is clear for everyone who signed it.
Okay. And what do you think is going to happen tonight? You seem like
I have no idea.
Okay. Well, you seem like you think this is already going to go to the ballot, right? You think it's going to go to the voters, or?
I'm not sure what would happen. I think a technical fix that would allow workers to start earning time immediately would be great. I know that the mayor has expressed his support for really helping New Brunswick workers, And we're hopeful that he can intervene, or members of the council will intervene to make a quick correction, and then it can move forward. But if it goes to ballot, we'll, just like we've done in 3 other municipalities, we are really prepared to push to ensure that all workers are covered. In addition, I want to say that, even after it goes to ballot, there's an opportunity to pass essentially like a worker or a temp worker Bill of Rights that would ensure that the council could move post-ballot or in tandem, that would ensure that different wage and hour protections are fully extended to temp workers. And that wouldn't just be for earned sick days, but also this issue of wage theft and different protections. So we'd love to work on that as well. I mean, for us, the bottom line is that we're about expanding the rights of all workers. And here's this huge opportunity to do so and to impact not only the state, but national. I mean, nationally, we've gotten a lot of attention in New Jersey because of how comprehensive all the coverage, all of the different ordinances have been.
Okay. So are you going to be meeting with the city today to work this out?
We've reached out. We're certainly going to be at the city council tonight.
And I presume people will be there to speak on behalf of the ordinance as well?
Yeah. I mean, I think, I'm assuming everyone is going to come out and speak in support of the ordinance or this proposal, because, I mean, overall, let's just look at the big picture. We all agree that workers need this and that all workers should get it. And so, I think together making the argument that we should make sure all get the coverage and that all have the ability to benefit from such a proposal, even if it just means like a small technical fix, like we should band together and say that. I do want to clarify, you had said New Brunswick became the first place to have the secure and safe. There's a statewide provisions. Some things were omitted from the proposal because there are statewide provisions that already cover workers or preempt certain local language. So I just wanted to clarify that. It wasn't an omission to not extend coverage to victims of domestic violence, but rather just eliminating redundancies.
Of course. So, but they were the first in the state to add that language. Interesting. So, I guess thank you so much for taking the time. For everybody watching at home, thank you for joining us. Right? I'll see you at the council meeting. All right. Thanks to Anna Lily Mejia for joining us from the NJ Working Families Alliance, and thanks to all you for joining us today. You can check out our August issue still available throughout town. We'll have a new issue for you later this week. Come to the city council meeting tonight. If you're interested in this issue, if you got an opinion on it, if you want to speak up, if you want to learn more, come to City Hall, downtown New Brunswick tonight at 5:30 p.m. The council even changed the time of their meeting to accommodate this petition, so they'll be having this very important hearing, and we'll see how this plays out. And join us again tomorrow morning when we'll have the exciting conclusion for you. Thanks so much for joining us.
All right. Thank you.